Have you ever felt like you were in a season of waiting, a season of testing, where every part of you was stretched beyond what you thought was possible? Have you ever found yourself in the midst of a trial so heavy that it seemed as if the weight of the world was pressing down on you, and yet you chose to hold on to your faith? This is where the chosen one finds themselves now standing at the threshold of a divine breakthrough, having passed a test that not only stunned the heavens but also repositioned you for what is coming next. We've all heard it said, faith is tested in the fire. But there's something more to that. What if I told you that your faith, your obedience, your choice to remain steadfast, even when everything around you seemed to be crumbling, has caused a shift in the unseen realm? Heaven has been watching, and God's response to your unwavering obedience is not just seen, it is felt. This moment marks the turning point. Everything you've endured, every hardship, every trial, every moment of confusion and frustration, was all part of a divine process, preparing you for something far greater than you could have ever imagined. But here's the thing. This wasn't about your comfort. It wasn't about easy wins or moments of ease. This was about your destiny, about the divine assignment on your life that God has been orchestrating in the background. And now, the time has come for that destiny to unfold. As you stand at this threshold, it's important to recognize the profound truth. This divine shift wasn't a sudden moment. It's the culmination of years of unseen warfare, spiritual battles, and choices you made in the face of opposition. Heaven has been at work behind the scenes, positioning you for such a time as this. And today, right now, is when everything changes. If you were to look back on the road you've traveled, it may seem as though it's been one long stretch of waiting, wondering when things would break through. But what you couldn't see, what you couldn't always understand in the heat of the moment, was that God was shaping you, preparing you, and testing you for something greater. There were times when you didn't think you could go on, when the pressure was so intense that every ounce of your being screamed for relief. But in those moments, you chose faith. You chose obedience. You chose to follow God's guidance, even when it cost you something significant. You didn't compromise. When life tried to push you into corners of compromise and despair, you stood your ground. You chose integrity when it would have been easier to give in. You chose faith when fear tried to overtake your mind. And you chose to trust God when it would have been simpler to walk away from your calling. And in doing so, you passed the test. This test wasn't about whether you could simply endure hardship. It wasn't about whether you could just make it through the day. It was about your ability to hold on to your faith through every storm, every trial, and every difficult moment. It was about your trust in the unseen God who was working on your behalf, even when you couldn't see the plan. There is a truth that many miss in the midst of their struggles. The battle you were fighting wasn't just physical. It wasn't against the people who betrayed you, the systems that overlooked you, or the opportunities that slipped through your fingers. According to Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Every time you faced rejection, disappointment, or delay, there was a spiritual battle happening behind the scenes. The enemy of your soul wasn't just fighting to keep you stuck. He was fighting to prevent you from stepping into your divine purpose. Every moment of confusion, every unanswered prayer, every door that seemed to remain shut, it was all part of a greater plan. In the spiritual realm, the enemy saw your potential before you did. He knew that once you passed this test, once you chose obedience instead of compromise, faith instead of fear, everything would change. He fought hard to stop you from reaching this moment, but now, as you stand in the victory of your unwavering faith, he has lost. And heaven has noticed. Obedience is one of the most powerful weapons in the kingdom of God. It's easy to think that obedience is about following rules, doing what's right when it's convenient, or when others are watching. But real obedience is different. Real obedience is choosing God's will above your own, especially when it costs you. Real obedience is saying yes to God when everything in your flesh is screaming no. It's when you trust God even when you don't understand the plan. That's the kind of obedience you've walked in. Your obedience wasn't just about doing what was right. It was about trusting that God's plan was bigger than what you could see. And because of that obedience, heaven has responded. The blessings that were delayed, the doors that were once closed, are now being opened for you. The moment you passed that test, the moment you held on to your faith when everything was shaking, a shift occurred. Heaven's vault of blessings, long delayed, has been opened over your life. What was once hidden is now being revealed. What was blocked is now being released. And now, as you stand on the precipice of your breakthrough, know that this is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the moment when everything changes. God is aligning you with your divine purpose. Your favor is no longer hidden. It's visible for all to see. The doors that once remained closed are now swinging wide open. What you couldn't achieve in your own strength is now coming to you through divine acceleration. This is the moment of breakthrough. This is the moment where God steps in and says, "It's your time." As you step into this divine shift, know that you didn't just survive for survival's sake. You didn't endure just to get by. You endured because God was preparing you for something far greater. Your journey has been one of preparation, purification, and sanctification. And now, as you stand on the other side of the test, you are about to experience a release of blessings like never before. Trust that this is not an accident. Your choices, your obedience, your faith, and your perseverance have positioned you for this very moment. Heaven has noticed, and this is just the beginning of the divine assignment God has for you. Your breakthrough is here, and it will not be denied. The time of waiting has ended. Your season of hidden favor has come to an end, and now it's time for you to walk in the visible manifestation of all that God has prepared for you. Step forward, chosen one, for your divine purpose is waiting. This introduction emphasizes the divine shift that has occurred due to the chosen one's unwavering faith and obedience, setting the stage for a profound breakthrough. Let me know if you'd like further adjustments. Life has tested you in ways you never expected. Every challenge you faced seemed like an insurmountable battle, with hardships that could have easily destroyed you, failures, betrayals, doors slamming shut, each one making you feel as if the weight of the world was on your shoulders. Yet, in every moment, you chose to stand firm. These trials were never meant to break you. They were meant to reveal the strength within. You proved that nothing could crush your spirit. And it was in these moments of difficulty that your true character was revealed. In the darkest hours, when the pressure felt unbearable, you refused to succumb to despair. Each obstacle that stood in your way only fueled your resolve. It was in those moments of deep struggle that you discovered the depth of your own strength, strength you never knew you had. You held on to hope when all seemed lost, and with every step forward, you defied the odds. The challenges that were meant to overwhelm you became the forge in which your spirit was tempered, preparing you for what was to come. Every time you felt like giving up, something within you whispered, "Not yet. You are not finished." And you listened. You chose not to let your circumstances define you, but rather, you chose to rise above them. These trials weren't simply obstacles. They were opportunities to tap into a strength that only hardship can unlock. You may not have seen it at the time, but each moment of resistance was carving a path toward your purpose, making you more resilient and ready for the breakthrough that was always meant to come. In choosing to stand firm, you demonstrated more than just endurance, you demonstrated faith. Faith that, despite the storms, there was a higher purpose at work. Faith that, though you couldn't always see the way forward, God was moving behind the scenes, aligning everything for your good. You trusted that every setback was simply a setup for something greater, and that trust has now positioned you for the blessings that are about to unfold. Though the challenges you faced seemed physical, the true battle was fought in the spiritual realm. Your adversary wasn't the people who betrayed you, the lost opportunities, or the closed doors. As Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." The battle you were in wasn't just about what you could see. It was a spiritual war aimed at keeping you from your divine purpose. Every delay, every rejection, every moment of confusion was designed to make you doubt your path. But you stood strong, and with each victory, you shook the unseen realm and moved closer to fulfilling your destiny. The struggles you faced were not random. They were carefully orchestrated by unseen forces that sought to derail you from your divine calling. In the physical world, it may have appeared as though your challenges were just a series of unfortunate events. People who let you down, opportunities that slipped away, and doors that remained locked. But beneath the surface, there was a much deeper battle taking place. The enemy wasn't merely attacking you through people or situations. He was attempting to weaken your spirit, distort your perception of God's plan, and create doubt where there was once faith. Every time you were rejected, it was more than just personal disappointment. It was a tactic designed to make you question your worth and the promises God has spoken over your life. Every closed door was more than just an opportunity lost. It was an attempt to make you believe that God's plans for you were being delayed or denied. Every moment of confusion was a spiritual attack meant to cloud your vision and distract you from your purpose. The enemy sought to confuse, isolate, and weaken you in the hope that you would abandon your path. But you, chosen one, refused to bow to the lies. In those moments when doubt crept in, you stood your ground. Even when you couldn't see the outcome, you held on to your faith and trusted that God's timing was perfect. Each time you chose to rise above the fear, each time you resisted the temptation to give up, you moved one step closer to the fulfillment of your destiny. Your strength, born of unwavering faith, shook the very foundations of the spiritual realm, making the enemy tremble. You were proving, with every choice you made, that you would not be swayed or shaken by the forces of darkness. You were proving that nothing could separate you from the calling on your life. And in that battle, your resilience and obedience to God were not just surviving the storm, they were actively dismantling the forces that sought to hold you back. Every victory, no matter how small it seemed, was a declaration of your divine alignment. The enemy's plans were thwarted, and with every step you took in faith, you were claiming the ground that rightfully belongs to you. Heaven saw your faithfulness, and the tides of spiritual warfare began to shift in your favor. The battle wasn't over yet, but you had already won. In the face of all the trials, you had a choice to make: to give up, to take the easy way out, or to remain obedient to God's will, even when it seemed like it would cost you everything. You chose obedience. This wasn't about following rules or doing what was right when others were watching. This was about trusting God's plan when everything else seemed uncertain. In those quiet, hidden moments, when no one was looking, you made the decision to stand firm. And that choice, made under immense pressure, shook the very foundations of the spiritual realm. Heaven noticed your obedience, and it became the key that unlocked the blessings and breakthroughs that were waiting for you. It was in those quiet moments, the ones no one else saw, that your character was forged. You chose the harder path, the one that required sacrifice, the one that asked for your trust when you couldn't see the end of the road. When the world would have told you to take matters into your own hands, when everything in you screamed to seek an easier, quicker way out, you held firm. You didn't choose to follow God because it was convenient, but because you knew that His way, though difficult, would lead you to a greater destiny. And in that, you displayed the true power of obedience. What others may have seen as a small, unseen choice, heaven recognized as a powerful declaration of faith. Your obedience didn't just make a way for you. It created a ripple in the spiritual realm that reverberated with divine power. With every decision to honor God, every moment you resisted temptation or fear, you were aligning yourself with heaven's purposes. The impact of your faithfulness was far greater than you knew, reaching into the unseen and breaking chains that were meant to hold you back. That decision to obey, despite the overwhelming pressure, set in motion the release of what was already yours. It was as if the gates of heaven swung wide open, and blessings began to pour out that had been held back, waiting for this moment. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a stroke of luck. It was your obedience that unlocked the favor and the breakthroughs that were designed specifically for you. God's timing had always been perfect, but now, with your faithful choice, the doors were opened. The battles you faced didn't defeat you. They refined you. They prepared you to receive what you had been praying for, even when it seemed impossible. Your obedience was the final piece in the puzzle. It was what turned delayed blessings into released ones, hidden favor into visible reward. Heaven had always been watching, but now it was moving in response to your faithfulness, preparing to manifest everything that had been promised. What you've sown in obedience, you will now reap in blessings. The wait is over, and the doors you have longed to open are now wide. The struggles you faced were not simply the result of personal misfortune. They were part of a much greater spiritual battle. As the Bible teaches in Ephesians 6:12, the real fight isn't against people or physical circumstances. Instead, the battle is against principalities, powers, and spiritual forces that operate in the unseen realm. You weren't just enduring hardship for the sake of hardship. These trials were a strategic effort by spiritual forces trying to obstruct your divine purpose. Every setback, every moment of doubt, every time a door closed in your face, was part of a larger plan by forces that could not be seen. These forces knew your potential. They knew what was at stake in your life, and they fought to keep you from fulfilling your purpose. The enemy didn't just attack you because you were vulnerable. He attacked because he recognized your potential before you even did. He knew the power and purpose you carried, and he knew that if you were allowed to step into your calling, nothing could stop you. He understood the weight of the divine assignment upon your life, and the impact it would have on those around you. The more significant your destiny, the more intense the spiritual warfare. Each trial, each challenge you faced, was a calculated strike against your future. It wasn't random, it was orchestrated. The enemy used every tool at his disposal: fear, doubt, rejection, confusion, to try and wear you down. And yet, you stood. Every moment that you thought would break you, you resisted. Every time you felt like giving up, you chose to press forward, holding on to the truth that God had a plan for you, even when you couldn't see it. You chose to believe that the unseen world was working in your favor, even when everything in your physical world seemed to contradict that belief. The warfare was not merely about what was happening around you, but about what was happening within you. Every time you were tested, you were being strengthened, purified, and refined. The struggles you faced weren't designed to destroy you. They were designed to mold you into the person God intended you to be. Through each hardship, God was preparing you for greater things, even if you didn't understand why at the time. You were being conditioned for your divine assignment, and as much as the enemy fought to keep you from it, every battle was leading you closer to your breakthrough. The enemy's goal was to get you to doubt God's goodness and question his plan. When doors were slammed shut in your face, when opportunities slipped away, and when people betrayed you, the enemy wanted you to believe that God had abandoned you. He wanted you to believe that your dreams were unattainable, that your prayers were unheard, that you were not worthy of the destiny God had set before you. But in those moments, you chose faith over doubt. You chose trust over fear. You chose to believe that the silence was not abandonment, but preparation. Every moment of rejection, every moment of closed doors, was simply God's way of redirecting you towards something better, toward the destiny He had set aside for you before the foundations of the world. In Ephesians 6:13, it says, "Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm." You were being prepared to stand firm. You were being equipped with the armor of God, the truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation, and the Word of God, all of which were being forged in you through the very trials the enemy thought would destroy you. Each piece of armor was crafted through the very battles you fought. Your faith was being fortified, your trust in God strengthened, and your spirit made unshakable. And when the final battle came, you stood, not in your own strength, but in the power of God. You were equipped for the fight, even when it seemed like there was no hope. The more the enemy fought against you, the more God was at work within you, refining your character and preparing you for what was to come. He saw your faithfulness in the face of adversity, and he responded by positioning you for your breakthrough. The enemy's goal was to wear you down, to convince you that you were unworthy, that the blessings you longed for would never come. But God was working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything in your favor. Every trial, every battle, every setback was part of a larger plan to position you for the blessings that were waiting for you on the other side of your obedience. God doesn't promise us a life free of struggle, but He promises that He will be with us through it all. He promises that He will never leave us, nor forsake us. Deuteronomy 31:6. Even in the darkest moments, He is there, working all things together for our good. Romans 8:28. The struggles you faced were never meant to break you, they were meant to build you. Every moment that you thought would defeat you was actually shaping you into the person who could handle the greatness God was about to release into your life. And now, as you stand at the edge of your breakthrough, you can look back and see how far you've come. You've come through fire, and you've come out stronger. You've come through the storm, and now the sun is shining brighter than ever before. Every moment of struggle has led you to this point. Every step you took in faith has brought you closer to the fulfillment of God's plan for your life. The enemy may have fought against you, but he has already lost. And now, it's your time to step into the blessing, the purpose, and the destiny that God has been preparing you for all along. Your divine purpose is no longer just a distant hope. It is a reality that is about to unfold before your eyes. The spiritual battle that you faced, the one that seemed impossible, was simply God's way of preparing you for what was always meant to be yours. The delays, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, none of them were in vain. They were all part of the process that led you to this very moment. And now, the doors that were once closed are opening wide, and the blessings that were delayed are being released into your life. This is your time. The battle has been won, and the victory is yours. You've endured, you've overcome, and now you are stepping into the fullness of the purpose God has for you. The spiritual forces that once worked against you can no longer hold you back. You are standing in the favor and the blessings of God, ready to walk into the future that He has been preparing you for. What you didn't realize in those moments of struggle was that you were carrying more than just your own burdens. You were carrying the weight of generational patterns that had been passed down through your bloodline. These patterns were not just personal struggles. They were cycles of fear, poverty, brokenness, and oppression that had been entrenched in your family for generations. These spiritual forces weren't only trying to stop your progress, they were trying to keep these destructive cycles alive, preventing you from breaking free. But in your journey, you were doing something profound. Each time you resisted the pull of those patterns, you were cutting ties with them, stepping out of the bondage that had held your ancestors captive. By standing firm, you not only fought for yourself, but for the generations that came before you and the ones who would follow. You were breaking chains that had been shackled to your family for years, perhaps even centuries. For years, your ancestors lived with these cycles, feeling trapped in a repeating pattern of hardship and defeat. They tried to break free, but the grip of those spiritual forces was too strong. They fought valiantly, but often fell short. Yet, in your story, something shifted. You were the one chosen to stand up and say, "This ends with me." The courage you exhibited wasn't just for your own deliverance, it was for the freedom of your entire bloodline. Every decision you made to turn away from old patterns of fear and scarcity became an act of defiance against the chains of the past. Every time you resisted the temptation to settle for less, to fall into the traps of insecurity or limitation, you were declaring your family's freedom. You may not have realized it, but with each step, each challenge you overcame, you were creating a new history. You were giving your descendants a new legacy, one of victory, faith, and breakthrough. You were breaking the cycle that had kept your ancestors in bondage, and in doing so, you were positioning your future generations for freedom and fulfillment. Generational patterns can feel inescapable. When you've seen your parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents struggle with the same issues, whether it's financial hardship, broken relationships, or battles with addiction, it's easy to assume that you too are destined to carry that same burden. It feels like something outside of your control, like a curse that has been placed on your family. But here's the truth. Breaking those generational patterns starts with one person. It starts with you. When you decided to change, to live differently, to trust in God's plan for your life, you set in motion a chain reaction of change that could alter the course of your family's future forever. This isn't just about personal transformation. It's about restoring what was lost and stolen from previous generations. You're not just breaking free for your own sake. You are reclaiming what was taken from your ancestors, the victories they never had a chance to experience, the blessings that were denied to them. Your breakthrough is a prophetic act, declaring that the enemy's hold on your family is broken and that a new legacy of freedom and prosperity is being established. There is something deeply powerful about the role you've played in this spiritual battle. You were chosen to be the one who would rise up, the one who would say, "No more," and fight for what your ancestors couldn't. And now, that fight is being rewarded. The doors that were closed to them are opening to you. And through your obedience, you are not only receiving the blessings that were once withheld, but also making way for those blessings to flow into the lives of your children and grandchildren. This journey of breaking free from generational patterns hasn't been easy. It has been a long, hard road, one filled with moments of uncertainty and struggle. But with every step you took, you moved further away from the old patterns and closer to the life God has promised you. You have felt the weight of these generational burdens, and yet, you have continued to move forward, trusting that there is something better on the other side. And now, as you stand on the threshold of your breakthrough, you can look back and see that you've been victorious. But it's important to understand that this victory is not just about overcoming obstacles in your own life. It's also about what you've opened up for those who come after you. Your victory has set a new precedent, a new path that they can walk, one that is not hindered by the same destructive forces that held you back. The struggles and battles that you fought were never just for your own benefit. They were for your children, your grandchildren, and even generations yet unborn. You've established a new foundation, one built on faith, resilience, and trust in God's promises. As you continue to move forward, remember that the battle is not over. The enemy will continue to try and lure you back into those old patterns, those old cycles, but you now stand armed with the knowledge and the victory of what you've already overcome. You know the strength that lies within you, and you know that you are not bound by the same chains that once held your family captive. Your authority has been established, and you can confidently stand against any force that tries to challenge the freedom you have claimed. You are not just free for yourself, you are free for your family, for your ancestors, and for those yet to come. Your breakthrough is not just a moment in time, it is a generational shift. And as you move forward, you will continue to see the ripple effect of your obedience and faithfulness, not only in your own life, but in the lives of everyone connected to you. Now, you can walk in a new level of freedom, knowing that you have broken the chains that once held your family in bondage. With each step, you are moving further into the fullness of the life that God has promised you, a life of victory, prosperity, and peace. You've done the hard work, and now it's time to walk into the promises that have been prepared for you and your descendants. Your legacy will no longer be defined by fear, poverty, or brokenness. It will be defined by the victory you claimed, the freedom you fought for, and the generational breakthrough you established. And with each new generation, this legacy of freedom will continue to grow, expand, and flourish, as your descendants walk in the blessings that were unlocked by your faithfulness. Every trial, every moment of resistance was a step in God's process of sanctification. God wasn't just allowing you to face these challenges for no reason. He was using them to prepare you for something much greater. Breaking free from these generational cycles wasn't just about surviving. It was about becoming the person you were meant to be. Sanctification, the process of being made holy and set apart for a higher purpose, was unfolding in your life through every obstacle you overcame. With each victory over the spiritual forces at work, you were being refined and strengthened for the greater calling ahead. God was purifying you, molding you, and preparing you to walk into a purpose that would not only change your life, but impact the world around you. By breaking free from the chains of your past, you were stepping into a destiny greater than you ever imagined. Each challenge you faced, each moment of resistance, was more than just an obstacle. It was part of God's greater plan to refine you, shape you, and make you into the person He created you to be. The trials were not random. They were carefully crafted opportunities for growth and transformation. While they may have felt overwhelming at times, God was using each one to strip away the old and replace it with something new, something stronger, something purer. Sanctification is not a passive process. It's active and intentional. It requires your participation. You could have given up at any point along the way, but you didn't. You chose to press forward, to remain obedient, even when it was difficult. When it seemed like there was no end in sight, every time you chose faith over fear, integrity over compromise, and hope over despair, you were actively engaging in the process of becoming more like the person God destined you to be. You were surrendering the old self and embracing the new self that God was creating in you. Through each challenge, God was peeling back the layers of doubt, fear, and insecurity that had accumulated over the years. These were the same layers that had built up in your ancestors' lives, preventing them from walking fully in their purpose. But now, in this season, God was removing those layers from your life, one trial at a time, so you could be free to step into the destiny He had prepared for you. With each breakthrough, you became less shackled by the past and more equipped for the future. The process of sanctification is often uncomfortable. It means facing things about yourself that you may not want to confronting old wounds and patterns that have held you captive for so long. But God does this not to harm you, but to heal you. He allows these trials to refine you, just as a blacksmith allows the fire to refine metal, purging it of impurities and making it stronger. You may have felt like you were being consumed by the fire at times, but what was really happening was that God was using that fire to burn away everything that couldn't go with you into your next season. God's process of sanctification also includes teaching you to trust Him in ways you never have before. When everything around you was falling apart, when the people you relied on let you down, when your plans were thwarted, God was showing you that He was all you really needed. He was teaching you that your identity and security do not come from circumstances or people, but from Him alone. This is a crucial lesson for the destiny that lies ahead of you, because the greater the calling, the greater the dependence on God will need to be. God needed to prepare you for a season where you would be walking in such a high calling, where the weight of your purpose could only be sustained by Him. As you walk through the process of sanctification, you may have felt isolated at times, as if the world had turned its back on you. But this isolation was part of God's protection and preparation. There were things He needed to do in your life that could only happen in the quiet, in the hidden places. Just like a seed must be buried in the soil before it can sprout, there were aspects of your destiny that had to be cultivated in secret, away from distractions and the opinions of others. During these quiet seasons, God was doing the deep work. He was reshaping your character, strengthening your resolve, and deepening your faith. It was in the stillness that you learned to hear His voice more clearly. It was in the waiting that you learned patience and endurance. And it was in those moments of struggle that you learned the depths of His love and faithfulness. While you may have been tempted to question why God allowed you to go through such painful circumstances, in hindsight, you see that it was all part of His divine plan to prepare you for the greatness ahead. But even as God was purifying you, He wasn't just preparing you for personal success. He was preparing you for something far greater, something that would not only change your life but change the world around you. You were never meant to walk in your purpose alone. Your calling was always intended to have a ripple effect, impacting the lives of those around you. Whether through your family, your community, your work, or your influence, God was refining you to be a vessel of His love, grace, and power to the world. By breaking free from the chains of your past, those generational patterns, those cycles of fear and limitation, you were stepping into a destiny that would not only elevate you but also bring others into freedom. You were meant to break the chains not only for yourself but for the generations that would follow. Your journey of sanctification was about more than just your own healing. It was about setting a new course for your family, your community, and even the world. Your victory over the past would become a testimony to others who were still struggling to break free. As you continue on this journey, remember that sanctification is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. God will continue to refine you, continue to shape you, and continue to mold you into the person He has destined you to be. Each step forward, each trial overcome, is a step closer to fulfilling your purpose. And the best part? This is just the beginning. The destiny God has for you is greater than you can imagine. As you walk in obedience, trusting His process, you are stepping into a future that is filled with purpose, power, and impact. You are not just living for yourself, you are living for something far bigger than you ever dreamed. Through your sanctification, you are becoming a vessel through which God will bring healing, restoration, and breakthrough to the world. So, as you move forward, hold on to the truth that you are being prepared for greatness. The challenges you've faced and the battles you've won have not only prepared you for what lies ahead, but have positioned you to step into the fullness of your purpose. God's hand is on your life, and He is with you every step of the way. The process of sanctification is not easy, but it is worth it. It is making you into the person who will walk into the destiny God has designed for you, a destiny greater than you ever imagined. In the midst of your trials, it may have felt like you were all alone, facing obstacles with no way out. Yet, during those very moments of weakness, God was at work behind the scenes, silently orchestrating everything to align you with your divine purpose. The struggles you faced were not random or senseless. They were carefully placed stepping stones, guiding you towards the fulfillment of your destiny. You couldn't see it at the time, but every setback, every delay, every moment of confusion was part of God's greater plan. While the world around you seemed to be falling apart, heaven was moving, making preparations for your elevation. Each hardship was leading you toward a greater purpose, and even when it felt like you were stuck, God was positioning you for the breakthroughs to come. Even though it felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders, God was quietly at work, knitting together the pieces of your life into something greater than you could imagine. Every obstacle, every painful moment you endured, was part of a divine tapestry that was unfolding behind the scenes. You couldn't see it then, but your struggles were creating a foundation for something far bigger than you had expected. The challenges weren't obstacles to your destiny. They were the very catalysts God was using to shape you into the person you needed to be, to receive the blessings He had planned for you. In those times of struggle, it may have seemed like there was no way out. You may have questioned your worth, doubted your purpose, and wondered if anything you were going through would ever make sense. But God was never distant. Even when it seemed like you were walking through a valley alone, He was beside you, walking every step of the way with you. In fact, those moments of seeming silence were often the most significant times in your journey, because that was when God was preparing you in ways that were unseen. When the world around you was crumbling, heaven was aligning the universe in your favor. It wasn't by chance that certain doors closed. Nor was it by coincidence that some paths became blocked. Every closed door, every rejection, was simply God's way of protecting you from something that was not meant for you. Each time you faced a setback, it was God setting the stage for something greater to come. He was preparing you, even when you couldn't see the plan. God doesn't waste any experience. Everything you've gone through has been used as a part of the process to refine you and make you ready for what's ahead. What's often hard to see in the midst of hardship is that the struggles you're facing are not for nothing. Every challenge you encounter is shaping you into the person you're meant to be. Trials refine your character, sharpen your faith, and develop your perseverance. When you feel broken, know that God is mending you, making you stronger and more resilient. He uses these moments of difficulty to create something beautiful out of the pain. The pruning process isn't easy, but it is necessary for you to grow into your full potential. And here's the key. God was never surprised by the struggles you faced. He saw them coming before they even happened. Nothing catches him off guard. While you may have been caught in a storm, God had already seen the other side of it. He knew the breakthrough was on the other side of your persistence, and he knew you had the strength to make it through. His timing is always perfect, and he was working behind the scenes long before you even recognized the need for a shift. God was positioning you for elevation, preparing you for a new season that would usher in blessings, restoration, and the fulfillment of your divine purpose. What may have felt like obstacles were actually opportunities to grow and strengthen your faith. Each difficulty you encountered was a test, a chance for you to build the spiritual muscles that would be needed to carry you into the next level. God was stretching you, pushing you to grow in ways that would have been impossible without those very struggles. Without the testing, you would not have developed the resilience, wisdom, or faith needed for what is to come. The more you endured, the stronger you became. The more you persevered, the closer you got to your breakthrough. God doesn't waste pain. He uses every experience, every difficulty, to refine and perfect his plan for your life. In those moments when you thought you couldn't go on, God was quietly moving behind the scenes, setting things in place for your elevation. Your struggles were never in vain. They were steps on the path to a higher purpose. They were the tools God was using to shape you into the person you needed to become in order to fulfill the destiny he had placed on your life. Even in those moments when you felt alone, when the world seemed to have turned its back on you, know that God was still working. Every delay, every difficult moment was part of his divine timing. He was preparing you to handle the weight of the blessings that were coming your way. When you trust in God's plan, you begin to see the beauty in the struggle. The hardships you face now will be the very things that equip you for the greater calling that awaits. As you move forward, know that the challenges you've overcome have been essential in your journey. They were not meant to break you. They were meant to refine you, to strengthen your faith, and to prepare you for what is to come. The elevation God has for you requires preparation, and he is equipping you with everything you need to step into the fullness of your purpose. It's not a coincidence that you've endured what you have. It's all part of his divine plan to position you for greatness. So, as you face the challenges ahead, remember this: you are not alone. Heaven is aligning everything for your good. The struggles you face are not in vain. Every trial, every difficulty is leading you closer to the breakthrough that God has prepared for you. Trust in his timing, trust in his plan, and know that the blessings that await are far greater than anything you could have imagined. Keep your eyes on him, knowing that he is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the next step in your divine journey. Your breakthrough is coming, and it will be worth every moment of perseverance. The test you were enduring wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about learning to persevere and trust in God's timing. There were moments when you stumbled, when you questioned whether you could keep going, but it wasn't about getting everything right. The real test was whether you could keep moving forward in faith, even when you couldn't see the way ahead. God wasn't waiting for you to be perfect. Instead, he was waiting to see how you would respond to adversity. Would you trust him even when everything seemed uncertain? Would you continue to obey even when the path was unclear? Each trial was an opportunity for God to see your heart, your determination, and your willingness to trust Him no matter what. Heaven wasn't looking for flawless perfection. It was watching your perseverance, your faith in action, and your ability to hold on through the storms. In those moments of struggle, when the weight of the journey felt unbearable, it was easy to think that failure was right around the corner. You may have questioned whether you were doing enough, whether you were truly on the right path, but what you couldn't see was that God wasn't concerned with your ability to be perfect. He wasn't waiting for you to get everything right. Instead, He was watching how you responded when things got tough. Every time you stumbled, every time you faced uncertainty, God was there, waiting to see if you would trust in His plan, even when the way ahead seemed unclear. The real test wasn't about flawless performance. It was about the condition of your heart. Would you continue to seek Him, even when the answers weren't coming? Would you hold on to your faith, even when it felt like everything was falling apart around you? Would you trust Him in the dark, knowing that He was working behind the scenes, even when you couldn't see it? God knew that the trials you faced were hard. He knew that you would stumble. But what He was truly looking for was your perseverance, your unwavering commitment to trust Him in the midst of the storm. Each moment of uncertainty was an opportunity for you to demonstrate your faith. It was in those moments that you could choose to either give in to fear and doubt or press forward, knowing that God was with you, guiding your steps even when you couldn't see the next one. There were times when you were tempted to take matters into your own hands, to give up or to settle for less than God's best. But you didn't. You continued to seek His will, even when the road was hard. That decision, those moments of choosing to keep going when it would have been easier to quit, are the very things that have shaped you into the person you are becoming. God wasn't just concerned with the outcome. He was interested in the process. He wanted to see how you would respond, how you would grow in faith, and how you would allow Him to work through the struggle. As you persevered, you were being refined. With each trial you overcame, you grew stronger in your faith, and your trust in God deepened. What you didn't realize at the time was that you were being prepared for a greater purpose. Every moment of doubt, every moment of weakness, was setting the stage for your elevation. When you remained faithful, despite the difficulties, you were proving that you could handle what was coming next. God was equipping you with the strength, the character, and the perseverance you would need to walk into the fullness of your destiny. God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't feel that way. He sees the big picture, and He knows what's best for you. He was never going to let you fail, even when you felt like you were at your breaking point. In the moments when it seemed like nothing was happening, when you were waiting for something to change, God was still at work. He was positioning you for the breakthrough that was coming, and He was using your perseverance to prepare you for what was ahead. The beauty of the journey you've walked is that it wasn't about your ability to get everything right. It was about your willingness to keep going, your faith in action, your trust in God's plan, even when it seemed like all hope was lost, is what has carried you through. The storms you've weathered have not been in vain. Each one has been an opportunity for you to grow, to learn, and to trust God in ways you never thought possible. As you stand here today, having come through those challenges, you can look back and see how far you've come. You may not have seen the growth in the moment, but now you can see that every step, every trial, and every setback was a part of God's perfect plan to elevate you. His timing has been unfolding all along, even in the seasons where it felt like nothing was happening. The perseverance you displayed, the faith you showed, has paved the way for what's to come. Your journey has not been easy, but it has been worth it. God has been with you every step of the way, and now, as you stand on the edge of something greater, you can trust that He has prepared you for this moment. The breakthrough is coming, and it's not just the result of your hard work, it's the result of your unwavering trust in God's timing and your commitment to hold on through the storms. So, as you look ahead, remember that the trials you faced were never meant to break you. They were meant to build you up, to strengthen your faith, and to prepare you for the next step in your journey. Your perseverance has been the key to your progress, and it will continue to guide you as you step into the next season of your life. Keep trusting, keep persevering, and know that God is with you every step of the way, ready to bring you into the fullness of your purpose. During the times you felt abandoned or alone, it might have seemed as though you were being left behind, as though God had forgotten about you. But in reality, God was pulling you into a season of isolation, not as a form of punishment, but as a divine strategy to protect you. In the midst of relationships, the busyness of life, and the noise of the world, it's easy to be influenced by negative voices, toxic environments, or distractions that can steer you off course. But God knew that, in order for you to fulfill your divine purpose, you needed to be shielded from these distractions. This isolation wasn't abandonment, it was God's way of sheltering you so He could work on you. He knew the importance of this quiet, hidden season, where He could strengthen you, protect you from negative influences, and prepare you for the next chapter of your destiny. During this time of isolation, although it may have felt like you were being left behind, God was actually preparing you for something much greater. While it seemed like you were alone, the truth was that God was drawing you closer to Himself. In the solitude, you had the space to grow, reflect, and align yourself more deeply with His will. It was in this hidden place that you began to understand the value of silence and stillness, realizing that it was in the quiet moments that God could truly speak to your heart without the interference of the world around you. As you faced this season, God wasn't just shielding you from negative influences, He was also fortifying your spirit. The distractions that often cloud your judgment, the relationships that had begun to drain your energy, and the noise that drowned out His voice, all had to be removed for a season, in order for you to hear Him more clearly. This was a time for you to strengthen your relationship with God, to rediscover your identity in Him, and to rebuild the foundation of your faith. It was also during this time that God was teaching you to trust Him more fully. The isolation made it impossible to rely on anything or anyone other than God. In the quiet, you were forced to face your own thoughts, fears, and insecurities. It was uncomfortable, yet necessary. God was refining you, breaking down old patterns, and teaching you to rely completely on His strength, not your own. As the distractions of life faded, you became more attuned to His presence, learning that He was with you, even in the silence, even in the stillness. This hidden season wasn't about punishment, it was about transformation. God knew that to elevate you to the next level of your purpose, you had to be spiritually grounded. The trials, the waiting, and the periods of loneliness were the testing grounds where your character was shaped. Just as a tree needs strong roots to weather storms, you needed a deep foundation to stand firm in the face of future challenges. Without this season, you might have been too distracted or too weak to endure the pressures that would come with the next phase of your journey. Now, as you emerge from this time of isolation, you can see how God has been at work. He has been preparing you in ways you may not have fully understood at the time. But looking back, you realize that each moment of solitude was a vital part of your growth. You've been strengthened, sharpened, and transformed into someone ready to step into the next chapter of your destiny with confidence and clarity. God wasn't leaving you behind. He was protecting you, nurturing you, and preparing you for the elevation He had in store. As you step into this new season, take with you the lessons learned in the silence. You have been shaped by this time of isolation, and now you are ready to face the world with a renewed sense of purpose, strength, and faith. The distractions and negativity that once held you back are now behind you. You are more aligned with God's will, more focused on your calling, and more prepared to walk in the fullness of the destiny He has set before you. The next chapter is waiting, and you are more than ready for it. During this time of isolation, even when you couldn't see it, God was doing something profound within you. Like a seed planted deep within the soil, hidden from view, you were being nourished and strengthened in ways that were invisible to the outside world. No one could see the roots taking hold, but they were. No one could feel the growth happening in secret, but it was happening deep beneath the surface, where only God could see. This was a time where you were being quietly prepared for the breakthrough that would soon come. It was a time of internal development, where God was shaping you to be the person who could handle the purpose He had for you. It may have felt like you were stagnant, as if nothing was moving forward, and that perhaps you were being left behind. But in truth, God was not letting you stand still. He was fortifying your inner being. Just as a seed must break through the earth to reach the surface, you were being prepared to break through into the next phase of your life. The foundation being laid in you was essential for what was ahead. You were being rooted in faith, in trust, in resilience, qualities that would carry you through the challenges and battles you would face in the future. Though this season may have been one of solitude, it was not a season of waiting in vain. It was in the stillness and the silence that God worked His most important miracles. He was refining your character, purging you of things that were not aligned with your purpose, and instilling in you a deeper trust in His plan. It was a process of inner transformation. Even when it seemed like nothing was happening on the outside, you were being made stronger, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. The trials of this period were not wasted. Each challenge you faced was building the foundation for the life you were meant to lead. In the midst of your isolation, you likely questioned God's timing. There were moments when you wondered why things were taking so long, or why you were being kept in a holding pattern. But what you didn't realize was that this was the perfect time for God to work on you. The external noise, the distractions, and the influences of others could have easily clouded His voice and His work in your life. So, He allowed you to be in this quiet season, to give you space to hear Him clearly. Without the pressure of other people's expectations, you could focus fully on His plan for you. Without the rush of life, you could slow down and let Him work in your heart, letting Him refine you and make you into someone who would be able to handle the responsibilities of the purpose He had set before you. You were also being strengthened for the challenges ahead. You see, the calling God has on your life requires you to be spiritually grounded, emotionally resilient, and mentally strong. The challenges and temptations you will face as you step into your purpose require you to have a firm foundation. God knew that, in order for you to be able to withstand the storms that would come, you needed to be rooted deeply in His love, His truth, and His power. This time of isolation was a boot camp for your soul, preparing you to rise to the occasion when your moment arrived. You couldn't see it in the moment, but you were being made ready for the opportunities and battles ahead. While others may not have understood what was happening in your life, God knew exactly what He was doing. They may have seen your stillness as stagnation or even as failure, but God was building you up in ways that were not visible to the naked eye. He was working on your heart, your spirit, and your mind. He was transforming you into the person who could stand strong when the time came for you to step into your destiny. You may have felt overlooked or forgotten, but God was preparing you for something bigger than you could imagine. He was laying a strong foundation that would allow you to withstand the pressures of your calling and be a pillar of strength for others. As the days of isolation went on, you may have experienced moments of discouragement. It's hard to keep going when you feel like you're not moving forward or making progress. But you must remember that God's plan doesn't always move at the pace we expect. While we might want things to happen quickly, God knows that lasting change takes time. He is not interested in a quick fix. He is interested in deep, lasting transformation. That's why this season of isolation was so necessary. It was a time of spiritual development that would produce lasting fruit in your life. The foundation God was building in you would not only carry you through your purpose, but would also serve as a testimony of His faithfulness. You are now in a position where you are ready to emerge. The time of preparation has ended, and it's time for you to step into the fullness of the purpose God has for you. The roots you've established during this time of isolation will support the growth that will happen in the future. The strength you gained will carry you through the trials ahead. The trust in God's timing that you've developed will guide you as you walk in faith. This season of quiet preparation has made you into someone who is now ready to take on the next chapter of your destiny. As you move forward, remember that the growth that took place in the darkness was necessary. Just as a seed needs the dark soil to grow before it can break through to the light, you needed this time to grow in hiddenness. Now, as you step into the light, you do so with the strength, wisdom, and resilience that God has been cultivating in you. The waiting was not wasted. It was all part of His perfect plan to shape you into the person you are meant to be. So, take heart and step forward with confidence. The foundation is laid, and you are ready for what comes next. Your breakthrough is not by chance. It is the result of God's perfect timing. All that you have experienced, the challenges, the delays, the moments of uncertainty, has been part of a divine plan unfolding to align you with your true purpose. You may not have understood it in the midst of the struggle, but each obstacle and every trial were shaping you, refining your character, and strengthening your faith. Now that you've passed the test, you are prepared to walk boldly into the destiny God has set before you. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The moment when your faith, perseverance, and trust in God's timing are about to bear fruit. Embrace the breakthrough ahead, knowing that everything has been orchestrated by heaven to bring you to this point. The journey hasn't been easy, but it has led you to a place of readiness and alignment with God's will. What's coming next is not just a reward for your endurance, but the beginning of something much greater. Heaven has positioned you for greatness, and this is only the start of what God has planned for your life. Step forward with confidence, knowing that God's timing is perfect, and your destiny is unfolding exactly as it should.